This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 266 of This is the G Podcast. Yes. What's going on? We are your weekly news recap, bringing you news, politics, pop culture, and the tea. Follow us on Spotify at This is the G Podcast. That's again on Spotify at This is the G Podcast. You can get video and audio there. So follow us again at Spotify at This is the G Podcast. Do us a favor and do that. Welcome to the crew this week. What's going on? Tanya B is in the building. That house hunting Tanya B. If anybody can tell Tanya B where to live in the city of Atlanta, Fulton County, hit her up, please.
Please.
I know you're getting close though. How's everything?
Everything's cool. It's been a very eventful week.
Okay. Good eventful. Right. And in this week, man, we love having him on. It is the Hitman Howie. How you doing, Howie?
Hey, man, things can't get much better or else it'd be a crime. Thanks for the invitation.
No problem, man. Love the books on your shelf, too. That's hot. That's what's up.
Name one.
And he is here, y'all, the wealth of knowledge, political analyst, and award-winning author. Gotta say award-winning author. Harold Michael Harvey is in the building. You can check him out at haroldmichaelharvey.com. Always a pleasure and honor, sir. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
SWATs is in the building. Straight up SWATs. I mean, the heart of SWATs. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good today. Great day today. It's a little rainy, but it's good.
Yeah, we're gonna breeze through because you know what's going on outside. It's a little craziness in the weather here in the ATL. So we'll see how that turns out. Hey, again, I gotta say, thanks to the crew. We've got a lot on this show, man. A lot to talk about. First 100 days. I guess he's the self-anointed king, now the self-anointed pope. Harold Michael Harvey's going to bring make some sense of the first 100 days. It's all on you, Harold Michael Harvey. I'm just going to pass it to you, okay? Because I can't, but we'll talk about it. In the tea, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, Tanya B has that and a whole lot more. And just when you think it's safe for the Atlanta Falcons to have an error-free NFL draft, the unbelievable happens. And I'm going to ask Howie to kind of weigh in on that. So we'll chat about it. Okay? All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and let's do this. News of Syracuse, Mike. Again, always thank you, Mike, for sending us the headlines. Let's go ahead and do it. Here we go.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker held a sit-in protest and discussion on Sunday in Washington on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. The sit-in is in opposition to a proposed budget plan from Republicans.
That bill, we believe, presents one of the greatest moral threats to our country that we've seen.
That's Booker. The plan would cut billions of dollars from programs that support child care, health research, education, and housing, according to the New York Times. It's been 100 days for Donald Trump's presidency, and this marks the milestone where a bunch of polls come out to evaluate a new administration. The verdict? Not good. Most polls show the president slipping since Inauguration Day, with between 55 to 60% of Americans disapproving of his overall performance. Independent voters have shifted away from the president in large numbers in most polls. The biggest issue dragging him down, the economy. More Americans feel like things are getting worse. Even a recent Fox News poll shows only 33% of those surveyed approve of the way the president is handling inflation. The Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE and tied to Elon Musk, continues to face scrutiny, according to AURN's Jamie Jackson.
In fact, according to its website, which is updated regularly, DOGE outlines the various cost-cutting measures across the federal government and highlights what it calls areas of waste. Now, As of this week, Doge claims it has saved $160 billion. The department says the biggest savings so far have come from cuts within the Department of Justice, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Transportation. The largest single cut was a contract within the Department of the Interior, which Doge claims was reduced by nearly $2.9 billion. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
Officials with the Trump administration have begun the removal of historic artifacts from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. The first exhibit dismantled was Woolworth's lunch counter sit-in display from 1960. It's a recreation of the stand 4 black students from North Carolina A&T took after being denied service. It is part of American history. And the African American History Museum is part of the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. The Smithsonian's chief spokesperson said the Greensboro, North Carolina lunch counter is not leaving the Smithsonian. It is on display at the National Museum of American History, where it has been for many years. But despite that shift, there are concerns after a Trump order accused the African American History Museum of promoting divisive, race-centered ideology. Critics called it Cop City, and now it's open. Atlanta's brand new public safety training center held a ribbon-cutting ceremony Tuesday. During construction, there were violent protests and various disruptions, but officials were determined to move forward. The cost, $118 million. Mayor Andre Dickens.
Our perseverance to see it through for the people of Atlanta now and into the future cannot be denied.
Police officials say the center has already helped improve hiring and employee retention. It's not his fault. It's Biden's fault. That's basically President Trump's position after bad economic news on Wednesday. The U.S. economy shrank in the first 3 months of the year, according to new data.
This is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th, and I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving.
The GDP fell in the first quarter of this year, according to the Commerce Department. The GDP, or gross domestic product, is a measure of a country's economic output, the market value of all goods and services produced within a country's borders. 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP growth means a recession. Economists say the first quarter was largely driven by a surge in imports, which is unusual and was caused by consumers and companies bracing for President Trump's tariffs. The White House is on a mission to kill DEI. The administration wants to replace diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts with a merit system, and pressure is being placed on corporate America to make it happen. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said, quote, "This administration is not going to let our society devolve into communist, woke DEI strangulation." But businesses like Starbucks, Costco, and Marriott have publicly defended DEI. Among S&P companies between 2020 and 2022, the number of black executives rose by nearly 27%.
All right, you know, whenever I hear Stephen Miller or I see him, I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie like Cabin in the Woods, that old man, they call him Jezediah. Well, you have to see the movie. But he's just one of these, like, he's a young guy, but he just sounds like one of these hate-mongering, you know, the people at the beginning of the movie who tell the kids, don't go up there. It's just, you know, he's a horrible guy. You know, he truly is. And so fitting for this administration. That's all I have to say about that. Award-winning author and political analyst Harold Michael Harvey is here. Welcome again, sir. And I say award-winning. Let people know the current award you were bestowed.
Yeah, my book, the book I wrote a year ago, Watch Night, about the 163-year history of the Bethel Christian Methodist Church, Episcopal Church, and the practice of traditional practice of Watch Night on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day in the African American community. That book won a bronze medal in the Illumination Book Awards for this year, and the book that I had released last year, Fantasy 5, is up for a book award this month. So the judging is not process. I'm hoping that we bring home the gold this time.
Stuff. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Congratulations, sir. Well, you know, definitely. You know, it is. You've had a lot of accomplishments, and it is well deserved. You know, Congrats. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, so let's get into the meat of it. We only got a limited amount of time, and so much has happened in these 100 days. Can you help us make sense of this?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just being honest. It's a mess, I tell you. Life in the United States of America as we have grown up to know it, is basically no longer. We're living in a country now where it seems like all the power is becoming centralized in the executive branch of government. I know when I was a kid and learning American civics in grade school, we learned about the three different branches of government and how those three branches are like equal participants in delivering democracy and rights to the American citizens and people who lived in America. But it seems like now all the power is being centralized in the executive branch. The Congress, both the House and the Senate, are controlled by Republicans, and they seem to have been seems to giving away their power to the executive branch. The Supreme Court doesn't seem to have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and make rulings based upon constitutional precedent. So, it's kind of a tough way to sum up what is taking place. We'll have these mass deportations of brown people. We have the executive branch going out into the media, trying and convicting and judging immigrants and some U.S. citizens and saying that they're gang members without having taken those people to court to establish by due process or give them an opportunity to rebut this allegation that they're gang members. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But certainly under our system or prior to this administration, under our citizens, on our laws, all citizens and people who reside in the country were afforded the right to a due process whenever the law wanted to take some action against them. So, it's just it's kind of hard to sum up what has happened. Things are happening so fast and furiously, but it seems like we are going down the road of no return with how quickly this administration is consolidating power and how the other two branches of government are allowing them to consolidate this power. So that's sort of like my take on that.
Let me ask you about deportations, because there's a push to deport even American citizens. And can you speak to that? What's happening there?
Well, I think the question has come up.
And quickly, like, who does that encompass?
Yeah.
Almost everybody who lives in the country who is a citizen, either by birthright or who went through the naturalization process and became an American citizen. So that means
so basically, even if like somebody like me, if or anybody, if they consider them an enemy of the state, they'll deport them.
That's what they're saying. Yes. Is that right? It doesn't sound right to me. But then accosting a college student on campus and throwing them in jail and threatening to deport them until the court said you couldn't do it. I mean, that doesn't seem right to me either. But it is happening before our very eyes.
Yeah, considering it is happening this way, definitely. I mean, we all knew, based on what we saw in Project 2025, that this would be the roadmap. Because when I see what they're doing, I hate to say this, it doesn't surprise me, because we were warned about Project 2025, which 47 denied over and over again. But the Heritage Foundation has been working on this for years, as part of their brain trust. And now it's actively a part of his administration's goals. So with that said, we knew it was coming. At least the people who were the people who were supposed to keep us within the guardrails? Who do you blame?
The people that voted for the foolishness.
Well, just to a certain extent, but within, you know, I look at and I'm asking, within the realm of power that could have checked a lot of this, who do you think has the most responsibility? And I'm just asking your opinion. There's no definite answer. There's not. Just your opinion.
You know, I think it's a moot point. It's happened. We have to deal with the reality that it is happening. So the question to me becomes, what are we going to do about it? We knew that if the current administration won the election back in November, that the Project 25 playbook would be implemented. So we knew it. There were certain members of the electorate who went out and did everything they could to prevent that from happening. It happened anyway. So now the car is in the ditch. The question now becomes how we get it out of the ditch. It doesn't matter who ran it into the ditch. We got to figure out a way to get the car out the ditch.
Yeah. Howard, you had something? Go ahead.
Well, to Tanya's point, the people who elected them, but I think the legislative and the executive branches of the government, I mean, not the executive branch, but the legislative branches of the government, the senators and congressmen that we put into office, they're not doing their job. They're acquiescing to everything that the executive office is putting out there. So now, and to Mr. Harvey's point, it is in a ditch, but, you know, midterms are coming. So it still rolls back to Tanya's point that the people have to vote people into office who's going to prevent and stand up for what is right, first of all, and then stand up to the executive branch and what they're doing to the country.
Tanya B, you have any thoughts?
No, and I thought even what Howie was saying, you know, you got all these, and I call them morons, because at least when you're ignorant, you can learn something, but you become a moron and an idiot when you just dumb as a box of rocks. You know, like Candace Owens, oh, he failed us. You were the main one out there pontificating, you know, for him. So all you people are Carrie Underwood and all the rest of those MAGA supporters, you know, now they're mega sorry. But you know what? That's the price you pay when you make a decision like that. And here we are just getting into the first stage of consequences. It has not even, the hens have not come home to roost yet.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cruel summer.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I got to say this, and I heard this, you know, I watched as I'm getting ready for the show, the Saturday news, you know, shows. And someone said something that made a lot of sense to me, that Congress they've abdicated their duties going back to the 80s. That this isn't anything new. It's just been a slippery slope, and it's gotten steeper to the point where it's just about to fall off into the abyss. That's where we are with Congress. And I say that to say, and I was asking about fault because, you know, there's got to be a point where we say, you know, if we keep doing, you know, it's the definition of insanity. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you got to expect the same results.
Exactly.
And even though people will laugh, know it's not a possibility, it's never happened before, I do believe that America, like never before, is at a point where a third party has to emerge. We got close with Purdue back in the day, okay, in terms of percentages, in terms of numbers. But I do believe that there's going to have to be pressure on the two-party system to get them to act right. As long as they don't have any pressure, as long as they can play the games, as long as they can do the stock deals, and both of them get in the stock deals and play games and negotiate that way in the smoky rooms, you know, I do believe nothing's going to change. I think there's going to have to be a third party emergence that, excuse my French, scares the shit out of them. Because right now they're in control. complete control. So even if you're in control to abdicate your power, you're still in control, because that's all the people can either not vote or make a decision to vote for one of those parties. And currently, I mean, you can look at the numbers. You talk about Trump's disapproval, look at Congress's disapproval. So I just say, you know, if I'm at a point where I welcome a third party. There was a point where I said, we're kind of on the right track. Let's not, you know, no, it's screwed. I agree with you, Mr. Harvey. I don't want to send out negative vibes to the people, but you know what? You need to get your house in order right now. Shore it up, tighten up, because one of the things he promised was to fix this economy day one. He didn't say he was going to do all this. Even to MAGA. Am I right, Mr. Harvey? Did he say, "Oh, in fact, I'm going to come in"?
He said he wasn't going to do any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and the price of eggs hasn't gone up. Okay.
Right.
He would end the war in Ukraine on day one. He would lower the grocery prices and egg prices on day one, and then inflation would go down on day one. He's done none of that. You know, so I don't know. Your solution may be the solution. I don't know what it is, but people in the country have to do something soon, or we won't have a country. At least not a democratic country where you have freedoms that, although it has been very difficult for African Americans to gain a foothold in this society, but we did have the hope of an outlook that if we take certain steps, you know, we could achieve. I think all of that, though, is being washed away under the guise of doing away with something they call DEI. And by the way, have you noticed that Trump has a DEI hire? Marco Rubio is Trump's DEI hire. He hires him to do everything. He's got a brown guy who shifts him around and puts all the load of the foreign policy and the international community on the weight of this brown guy, who is basically essentially is just like Clarence Thomas was the held the black seat on the Supreme Court. That's what Marco Rubio is. He's a DEI hire in the Trump administration.
Yeah. And I've got to say this. You and I were having a conversation, and, you know, we always have our back and forth conversation in preparation for a show. But, you know, I was saying that, you know, I truly believe the cheese is sliding off 47's cracker. You know, I think it is sliding off to the edge. And the reason I say that, and you know, a lot of people want to call him a genius. You know, I think, let me say this. He's had help all of his life, you know, from, you know, he got the money from his dad. Roy Cohn, who was the family attorney, taught him to be Donald Trump for the most part. He taught him everything he does, he taught him. Tony Schwartz wrote Truly, Art of the Deal.
All the books, yeah.
Pretty much. Mark Burnett created and produced The Apprentice. You know, when you look at it, you know, if when he was having heavy financial difficulties, you had Deutsche Bank come to the rescue when nobody else would loan him money. Russia helped him in the 2020 election. They don't want to admit it, allegedly. Ronald Reagan is responsible for the term "Make America Great Again." It's MAGA. So really, he's Ronald Reagan 2.0 without any empathy, pretty much. You know, he's an unempathetic Ronald Reagan. And when you look at all the trouble he got in after his first term, Susie Wiles, who's now his chief of staff, really resurrected him. You know, she jumped in, she took over everything, she cleaned out the disloyals. When he got into office, she pushed away the ability possibly for him to bring disloyal people in. She is the gatekeeper right now. And she's, honestly, she's doing a hell of a job. I mean, she's the campaign wizard, you know. Heritage Found, I can go on and on. The Heritage Foundation did Project 2025. You know, I just can't give him credit for having the ability to plot this. He ain't Lex Luthor. You know what I'm saying? He might be the Joker, who just he's
the joke.
He's the Joker. But I say all that, Mr. Harvey, to just say I get what you're saying. I mean, we're in, this is perilous, and venture capital companies do this all the time when they go in and break things, and eventually the company goes bankrupt, because what's happened is this first 100 days, the people who have benefited are his buddies, the billionaire. They can say we lost, but truly they gained a lot of wealth these first 100 days. I'd like to, if you look at what the amount of money they've gained these first 100 days, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Look at that daughter of Satan, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her wealth like quadrupled times 10.
Yeah. And even the fact that they're doing some inside investigations, but nothing. We talked about this on the show before.
Nothing will come of it
because they're all complicit. Nothing's going to happen.
But they're all in it, and if the people that are supposed to be investigating benefited from it as well, they're not doing anything.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this finally, and even this whole, as we tape on Saturday, the whole posting of yourself as Pope, I want you guys to put this in. If you had a, I don't think any of you are Catholic on this panel, but if your Baptist church and you're like an Ebenezer Baptist church, or even the great church, one of the church, Mr. Harvey goes to a legend, one of these legendary. It is. It's been around forever. It's a legacy type church, and your pastor passed away, and all of a sudden the mayor of the city decided, I'm just going to do an AI of myself standing in the pulpit as the next pastor of this legendary church. Man, your congregation would be outraged.
Yeah, the people who look like this. Now, I wonder, what are all of these staunch, dedicated, faithful Catholics going to do and say?
Oh, I don't think they can't be happy about that. I wouldn't. This is your guy. The Pope is revered.
I know the Vatican's getting ready for the conclave, but to my knowledge, maybe they're just ignoring him, that there's been no statement made.
Well, I'm just going to say...
They're just ignoring him.
The reason I say that is it just doesn't... what president of the United States... That's no better than the kid who prank called Shadur.
Well, let's.
But I'm gonna leave it at that.
Let's be mindful. This man has no spiritual compass whatsoever. He held the Bible upside down. So God forbid if he can spell catechism, I'm Britney Spears.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. I just don't know. Who would do that? He would. Yeah. Mr. Harvey, I'm gonna give you the last word on the 100 days, and then we're gonna have to go to break. But last word from you, Harold Michael Harvey.
Last word?
Yeah. We're gonna wrap. What's that?
Let's just be mindful and be careful of what's taking place. Keep your head on a swivel. Stock up, and let's just buckle up and see what happens in this next quarter, because it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better.
Agreed. All right, y'all. Hey, I want to give it up for Harold Michael Harvey. Thank you, sir, as always. How can people contact you? How can people connect with you and get your books?
Oh, HaroldMichaelHarvey.com.
And your essays, too. And your current essays. You HaroldMichaelHarvey.com. Essays there, too?
Essays there, too. And also Substack. Harold Michael Harvey Substack at Substack.com.
Yeah, I want to make sure his Substack articles are on this episode, and eventually when we get the site back up, we'll put them there as well. But definitely the link to your website. Again, thank you, Harold Michael Harvey.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to make it, sir.
We're going to make it. It's going to take the work.
I'm just
My granddad used to say, son, you got 40 miles of bad road ahead of you, but you can get.
But and I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna go to break. But I do have to say, you know, America's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Really and truly. Somebody put it in perspective this week when they were talking about the Watts riots, you know, the assassinations. Of course, you were there, Mr. Harvey, back in the '60s, and a lot of people thought it was the end. But, you know, America, you know, has resilience. So I think,
exactly.
You know, I believe the country has resilience. I mean, we got to get the midterms, and we got to win in 2028.
Yeah. Lord.
We got to win with an opposition party in both those. I'm going to leave it at that. All right, y'all. Hey, let's go to break. Mr. Harvey, thank you so much. And
all right.
You know, we'll talk to you later. All right, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be back. Thank you again, HaroldMichaelHarvey.com. We are back. Tanya B.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sipping the tea with Tanya B.
Tanya B, I know you ain't eating when you...
Look, I am
taking a bite.
You know, I've been out house hunting. Okay. Well,
hey,
let's
what
talk
you got?
about something. Okay, let's get it started. Okay, my
You need some water first? You all right?
Okay. Now we know this week the announcement was made for the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what's interesting? This particular show, again, it's not on network television like it used to be. It's going to be on Disney Plus. But you know, a lot of it's a very diverse class. A lot of people that they thought would get in didn't get in. But I want to say shout out to, you know, the South got something to say, because Outkast, Andre 3000, happy birthday, and Big Boy will be inducted. Salt and Pepper are getting it, but again, I mean, I guess, you know, progress is progress, but they're getting a special award because they did have a lot to do with the culture of hip hop, especially when it came to females, you know, with the hair, you know, the look, the you know, the door knocker earrings, and, you know, I mean, hey, you know, they were the first, I would say, well-known female hip hop group. So
iconic.
Chubby Checker is getting in. It's interesting that his song, The Twist, was seen as a novelty, much like hip hop, written by Hank Ballard, who came out of the James Brown camp. Now Chubby Checker is getting in. Thank God he's still alive. Cyndi Lauper, you know, Cyndi Lauper, I think she's one of those artists that, whether you're black, brown, green or grizzly gray, we know Cyndi Lauper, you know. And she's really, she's become quite a vocal activist for women, you know, and even done a lot of things for people of color. So shout out to Cyndi Lauper. But noticeably absent this year, I got to say also Tom Bell. If you know anything about the sound of Philadelphia music, it was Gamble, Huff, and Bell. They called themselves the Mighty Three. But when Tom Bell kind of broke away from them, everyone knew Gamble and Huff. And to talk about the songs he's written for Gamble and Huff artists, people outside of the Philadelphia International, especially he was very instrumental in the sound of the Delphonics. So, you know, we know and love here on this show. The Stylistics, you know, and wrote these amazing songs with the late Linda Creed. So I think he definitely, although he's passed away, unfortunately, I think he definitely is deserving. Noticeably absent, and many of the lambs are livid. Mariah Carey did not get in this year. Let me say this. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a lot like the Grammys in that you need someone to advocate for you to get in there. Someone who's a friend to this show, even, you know, that I won't say their name, but a certain influential producer had to advocate and campaign for Kool and the Gang and for Q-Tip and Tribe to get in. They almost did not make it. So I guess Mariah doesn't have a lot of friends in the room. And when you burn a bridge, this is the kind of thing that comes back to haunt you.
Hey, it took a while for Dionne. Dionne Warwick made it, correct?
Yes, she did. Yes. And it's like,
and,
people need to get their
and
flowers.
share.
Yeah,
I think.
before they are, unable to attend or just unable to, be alive to enjoy the accomplishment, really.
Yeah, I agree. I was shocked that Chubby Checker wasn't already in. When I saw his name, I thought he
They
was
view
already
him
in.
as a novelty.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
think about it. There were movies about the twist. They had a line of
Yeah.
clothes that were called twist fashions. That's part of the culture globally. It's not just a black thing.
Yeah. I
Okay.
just thought rock and roll. I thought Chubby Checker, and I was shocked that he wasn't already in.
So he'll be twisting all up to the podium, which is, congratulations to all the, that got in. Let's talk about the Bishop, T.D. Jakes. We know that he had that massive heart attack that he finally admitted to back in December. He said it scared the bejesus out of him. But, there's been these allegations of his connection to someone who's about to go to trial. We'll talk about him later. And that T.D. Jakes was involved in some of the shenanigans, as I'll call them, during those events. But what's interesting is he's stepping down kind of at the right time. I think he's really trying to get in front of whatever may come or not. He's handed over the reins to his daughter and son-in-law, but he's still doing movies. He's still doing special projects. He's got a project in Atlanta that is allegedly back in forward motion. We'll just have to see what happens, but it's just the timing couldn't have been, any more, for him, but again, if you have a massive heart attack, then you have your name, firmly entrenched into some of the allegations that were going on with the trial of the century that's coming up. You may want to step down too, because at the end of the day, the church is still a business and he doesn't want to affect the collection plate on Sunday. But we'll just see how he survives this. Godspeed on that. Let's talk about Terrence Howard. Oh my goodness. Terrence Howard said he is about to burn down Hollywood, and he may well burn some bridges. He's got a podcast. It's called The Underbelly of Hollywood. But the main reason that he made headlines this week, because he talked about, last week it was, Puffy trying to get with him, but this week it was about his refusal to portray Marvin Gaye in a biopic. Now, a lot of people, Mike Epps, a lot of different people have the rights to, just like the Richard Pryor story, the Marvin Gaye story. But Terrence said the reason why he wouldn't do this is because he refused to kiss a man on screen. And he stands by, his, I'll call it an allegation, that Quincy Jones told him that Marvin Gaye was gay. If anything, he might have been sexually fluid, but Terrence said he's not interested in that. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole Underbelly of Hollywood podcast, comes out of the wash. And again, he's probably going to burn a lot more bridges. So I hope he saves his money. I know Empire is in reruns, but that may not be enough to live off of. But the fact he's speaking up and he's very vocal, and we're like, and he's not apologizing for anything. So that'll be interesting.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, now let's go.
Maine. You won't kiss a
Come on,
Maine.
Yeah, man. You gonna come in? You gonna sue me, man? So just like Marvin Gaye's estate went after Pharrell and Robin Thicke for Blurred Lines. I wonder what they're gonna have to say about this. But at the end of the day, if it's true, it's not slander. It is what it is. Marvin Gaye has a legacy, a great catalog, and I wonder if people will even care.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, do you care about Mary J. Blige? She's out there on this for the fans tour. It's actually winding down. But she's being sued for $5 million by Misa Hilton Brim, her former BFF, and the mother of Puffy's first child. Now, Misa, this is rapper. His name is Vado. And if you listen to the Birdwire, there was a song that did very well called I Still Believe in Love. It was Mary J. Blige featuring Vado. Great song. So Misa's suing Mary, saying you tried to sabotage and steal my artist. Now, according to the word Down to the Curb up in the Slow Bomb in Yonkers, Mary J. Blige's current booth thing is her chief of security. Now, this chief of security is supposed to be the person that was going to produce Vado on Mary J. Blige's label. Was it Matriarch or Monarch? But I don't think that exists anymore because it was part of 300, which pretty much has folded.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing happens. But yeah, Misa's like, you tried to steal my artist and cut me out. And, come on, Mary. And it's interesting how artists who go through things and they get, treated and crapped on by other people. Why would you do that to somebody else? But I think this friendship may be beyond repair, truth be told. I don't know. It's not looking good. And neither is Puffy. Okay, here we go. I got some bullet points here about the trial of the century. This one may be more sensationalized, I think, than maybe even R. Kelly, because it's so. I mean, there was a lot with with Kelly, but if R. Kelly had a docu-series, Puffy's gonna have. This could be a 10-part. I mean, there's so much going on with this. Anyway, so the judge said no more delays. The trial starts May 5th. That is Monday. They are going to let Puffy get some street clothes the way they know his whole look has changed since he's been in jail. So I guess someone's going to either donate a suit or he'll have to have one let out to wear to court. Will he dye his hair? I wonder if Puffy really is the age he says, because I know people older than him that don't have. I mean, his hair is completely white, and so is his
I
beard.
saw that. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you if they were going to shave him too.
Yeah, they're gonna shave him, or they're gonna clean him. They're gonna let him take a shower outside of the prison. Who knows? And now his attorneys are just grabbing for so many straws. He said he wants the attorney that I forgot, somebody had an attorney and they got off. But see, this money's gonna run out. How long before he has to get up? He's trying to get to court.
He's not trying to get Garagos, is he? Mark Garagos?
What's the Garagos?
Because he's gotten a lot of celebrities.
Yeah,
He's gotten a lot
right.
of
But the
celebrities
thing
hurt.
is, he doesn't have that kind of money anymore. So if he don't hurry up and go to court, he could be we're looking at a public defender. Now, first it was, he was just a swinger and he was having fun. Now he's trying to go down the lane of mental illness. Duh. Yes, Kanye don't work for him either. And I think, if I don't know if the judge is going to allow people in the courtroom or even allow cameras, it's going to be explosive. Cassie is going to testify. The tape that went around the world of him beating the beef stew out of her is going to be shown to the jury. And there are other ex-girlfriends he's beaten. There's the one that had the last child. She was pregnant before he beat her into a miscarriage.
Wow.
So what does she have to say? And now here comes Mace going on social media talking about he's thinking about going to the trial, but he wants people to vote and tell him should he go. He going. And just for all the former artists and
he's gonna get subpoenaed.
Right. He'll just already be there. Ain't nothing changed up a limb. All the former Bad Boy and Puffy artists, from Mary to Faith, who's been extremely quiet. You got 112, Danity Kane, Total. Usher is not showing up. He's over in Paris doing his cable special. But I wonder who's going to show up to support him. You see, Clive Davis has been extremely quiet. Last time they mentioned his name, he was like, who?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to be. I'm telling you, it's probably going to take us through being the story of the summer.
Yeah, he is like celebrity poison ivy right now. Ain't nobody going to touch it.
Right. And it's going to be R. Kelly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Appreciate your time, B. So I do have a question to ask you about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Do you think, just briefly, because we got to move on to
wrap
the
it up.
next thing. With Mariah Carey, you think it's a matter, because I know they had, first of all, there always has been this imbalance when it came down to women, being chosen. But do you think again? I mentioned Dionne Warwick because they have a problem with balladeers, when people who are doing like soft or more adult contemporary slow jam type singers. Do you think that's one of the big reasons they haven't chosen her?
Because Dionne had some. She told us how to go to San Jose. She had more slow jams, if you will.
It was more adult contemporary kind of.
Right, but
not
and
necessarily
Dionne
on the
was
rock
more of
side,
a pop. Dionne she was a girl from Newark, but she was a pop act. Just look at the song that came out. Mariah Carey wanted to be black and be down, but her former husband wanted to make her kind of like a Dionne Warwick. But again, when you burn bridges and when you don't have those people that can move your needle in there advocating and lobbying for you, just like the Grammys, Beyonce, this is what happens, And if let me say one more thing. And if the bulk of the voting body of that entity does not look like her, or they don't give their kids a ballot to vote for her, it's not going to happen. That's why Luther, Patty, Anita, Gladys, they're not in there, and I believe they should be. And they're talking about, well, they're not rock and roll. Well, you know what? It's music. And who birthed rock and roll? People that look like this.
Yeah, that was my whole thing about the definition of rock and roll.
Yeah.
Over the years, and I'm not saying it's being watered down. That's negative, but it's expanding because rap has had such an influence
Yeah.
on the rock generation. I mean,
Right.
rock is in trouble. Period. Current rock.
Yeah,
So
you know, I'm
I'll
just
leave it
one
at
more
that.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. No, they almost treat the black artists because there's not a lot of country artists in the Hall of Fame either. If you think
No.
about it,
Yeah.
so
That's purely and country has its own big Hall of Fame.
yeah, they have their own Hall of Fame. Where's ours? Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
that's all
All
I got.
right.
Oh, I got to
Appreciate you,
say
Tanya
one more
B.
thing. I got one more
Good
thing I
stuff.
got to say.
Good
This.
stuff. Well, can you say it at the end of the show?
Okay, yes, I will.
We'll
Yes, I will.
get to it at the
Yeah.
end.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
we'll get to
hold it.
yeah, we'll get
Everybody
to it
wait
at the
around.
end when we wrap. Okay.
Okay, everybody got to wait
I
around.
gotta get into this. Because we spent a lot of time on the political stuff at the beginning of the show. I want to get into the Falcons this week, and who actually I got to give it to them. They had a great draft. It was a really good draft this week, one of the best they've had in years. And all of a sudden, when you think it was safe, like almost like Jaws, safe to go back in the water, you know, the defensive coordinator, we find his son sees an open laptop that, people, of course, these guys work from home, as we all have. You've got your laptop there. He goes in, he finds Shadur Sanders' phone number. Okay. And these phone numbers were created specifically for the draft. He's not using an old number or anything. This is a new number specifically for the draft. So he and his friends decide we're going to prank. After all this kid's going through, we're going to prank him and act like we're from the New Orleans Saints, and we're going to call him. And they tape it. Yeah, I don't know if they posted it on social media, but it was, under any other circumstances, if Shadur had been chosen in the top 10, early, I don't think it would have hit as hard as it hit this time. So Howie, first of all, what's his name? Ulbrich?
Ulbrich, right. Jeff Ulbrich, correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the defensive coordinator, and he's the new
Defensive coordinator, right.
he's new to the team. So, and, he is being fined. Well, the Falcons are being fined $250,000.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He's being fined $100,000. So I'm gonna ask you, Howie, when you heard this, what were your thoughts?
My initial thoughts was this was just a bad thing, and it shouldn't have happened. You have a 21-year-old who should know better, uh, going through his dad's laptop or iPad, and him and his friends are getting together and doing what kids or young adults do today, filming themselves making this call to Shadur Sanders. I think the one thing is that it was Shadur Sanders. I hear that several other players during this draft got prank calls as well, which is concerning overall for the NFL. Why is this information being available to the public?
Can I stop you there and mention?
Yes, sir.
That the number that is pranking, it's going back to the same number. Some of these other situations, yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting because now this is the same group of kids that's calling several different people. Now, so maybe it's not getting out to the public. Maybe it's just a guy who's going through his pop's computer information or his pop's. More important than that, his pop's making this stuff available to the house. Some things you don't have available, even if it's in your house. You just keep that because it's kind of proprietary information. But how the issue I listened to this week is how do you punish this young man? 21-year-old, you can't pull out the belt like my dad did when I was in primary school and do that.
The Hot Wheel track.
Right.
That's what he needs it. That's what he needs.
Well, he probably should have did it when he was younger. You're exactly right. So how do you punish this guy? I don't know. But to Tommy's point, the Falcons have been doing so great through this draft until this comes out. And I think something needs to be done. The $250,000 fine and $100,000 tax, which Mr. Blank probably pulls out of his pockets and cover for Ulbrich. But something needs to be done to say, hey, this can't happen. And they have to go back and check processes, meaning the NFL, and say, we can't have these numbers being available to the public. In this case, one group of kids that's calling around pranking people. That's bad business for the NFL.
I agree. Tanya B?
No, I just think that, like you said, the Hot Wheels track, but apparently this kid, this is probably how he's been behaving his entire life. Clearly there's some entitlement there, entitlement and no consequence. Because we all know if he looked like any of us, he'd have got lit up. I don't care if he is 21. if nothing else, make him go down in the hood and do community service.
Yep.
Because otherwise it's like, again, this is no consequence. They're sitting there laughing, and those kids are probably still laughing. And because it really didn't, to me, that kind of money, I get it. Because I think when they get fined, isn't that just like a write-off and it goes to something, it's tax deductible. So
Well, he'll find a way. The bean counters will find a way to fix it at the end. Yeah.
Arthur Blank probably needs a tax write-off. This new guy, honestly, I think in about 7 days it'll be out of the or less, it'll be out of the news cycle. But again, there should be some consequence for that, because if this kid gets away with it, next year there'll be another group of idiots that are going to try the same thing, and I call them what they are, idiots.
Well, I'm just going to say, it's ironic that people were talking about Shadur's privilege all the way through this, in terms of his privilege and his arrogance was the reason he fell, and one of the reasons why the Falcons are being embarrassed is because of a kid's privilege.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, honestly, I watched it, and I know a lot of people are saying it's racism that he fell. I don't think so, quite frankly, because, I'll say this, the majority of the players in the NFL who get the big money in the draft, they're black. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. But I do think it does come, not necessarily, I don't blame Shadur, because I don't think Shadur is a bad kid. I don't think, he's not Johnny Manziel. What was the guy's name?
Yeah, right. Was in Ohio. Yeah, party man.
Yeah, he wasn't party man. Right. This and the fact that his teammate went first in the draft, or second, was it first or second?
He went second, right?
Yeah, he went second in the draft so high. I the whole Deion. Well, he's Deion's son. I think it was more to it that had to do with team structure, and the fact that we went 2 rounds with only one quarterback. This was the year that quarterbacks weren't really chosen as high as the previous year.
Right.
So maybe if they had chosen all the quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds, I would say, oh, this is obvious. I don't think it was as obvious as we want to say it's obvious. I'm glad, to be quite honest, that he did go in the draft, because the kid did not deserve to be in free agency and not be drafted. That definitely was not the case. The fact that he got drafted, and I think he got drafted by the right team, things turned out okay. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
all right, y'all.
I have mixed emotions about that. Yeah, no, real quick, 30 seconds. I have mixed emotions about that. I think it might have been better for him to go into free agency so he can control where he wants to play in his situation a little bit better. The issue for me is when Dylan Gabriel, the guy from New Orleans shouts, got drafted, Milroe, when those guys went before him, I agree with you 100%. It wasn't racism, but it was something outside of his performance on the football field.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, and just to kind of go back on that, I don't know if he free agency, he had no leverage.
Right.
Where's he going to go? UFL?
Well, I just read an article about Warren Moon telling him to keep his head up, because the road to the NFL is not always through the draft. Warren Moon won 3 or 4 Grey Cups up in Canada before he even got a shot. Again, different time period for that position being drafted, but nonetheless, the road is not necessarily always through the draft.
Yep, I got you. All right, y'all.
It's time to wrap it up. This is the G Podcast.
We'd love your thoughts. Scan the QR codes on the logo, social media. Our links are there. All the links are there. So you can leave us a voice message also. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, support the podcast. And don't forget also the spinoff. What you're watching is live now on Spotify. Basically, go on Spotify, search What You Watching Tommy B, and you will see the first episode, which is my Sinners review, not the Spinners, not the Spinners.
It's a shame you got that.
Games people play. Yeah. Right. Here you go.
Rubber band man.
Rubber band man. All right. Nah, Sinners. Ryan Coogler. Yes. Y'all got any final shout outs? Tiny B, I'll go to you. Now you got one thing final. Go ahead, Tiny B. I'll give it to you.
I just wanted to say shout out to everybody who listens, and shout out to all my people in DMV. Just want to say prayers up to Fat Joe. Just came across my phone. He lost his mom. So, he's got a book coming out. So shout out to Fat Joe. Just, it's Mother's Day too. So I'm sure it's probably really sad for him at this time. So,
Exactly.
listen,
Exactly.
25 for 25. You still got time. Like, share, subscribe. I'm going to keep saying that till we get to our goal. Thank you, Tommy B.
Thank you so much, Tanya B. What you got, Howie?
Quick shout out is thanks for all the people who listen. Always thanks for the invitation. Real quick, I dropped 20 pounds by doing Dr. Joe's 40-day turn-up.
Dr. Fat Joe?
No, not that Joe.
Good job, man. Good for you, though.
Yeah, so if you
Big
Google
time.
it, check it out. And then I'm about to go to
Hey, man, text me that link.
I will do that. I'm about to do 75 Hard, which is a program that's called 75 Hard, where you change your mind thinking, change your body. I will let you know how that goes. So if anybody wants to jump on it, I could always use a partner in crime to help me with that.
Send it to me.
I got you.
Let's do it as a group. Let's do it as a group. Okay, go ahead.
There we go.
Yes,
Come on, send
absolutely.
it up.
Absolutely. That's it. Thanks, man. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, man, always good to have you on.
Thank you.
And I got to say kudos to Mayor Dre, City of Atlanta, man. They launched a program, a property tax relief program to help seniors stay in their homes.
Excellent.
By covering their tax increases for eligible residents over 20 years. So you've got these folks who've been living in their houses, and it goes back to 2015. You have to have been in your house since 2015. But it's for residents in Atlanta who are 60 plus, living in their home since 2015, and earn $48,000 or less, and you can apply for that still. It was a pilot program. They went from 200 to 45 more. I think they're at 245, but apply at investatlanta.com. I just think that's a massive move to fight what's going to happen eventually in Atlanta, which is gentrification. So
right, absolutely.
Now,
that is excellent. I see it signs up for the second term. So yeah, that's excellent. Excellent.
Good move. All right, y'all. Hey, with that, got to say thank you again. Episode 266 is in the can. Peace and power to the people, y'all. Have a great week. Keep your head up.
Fight the power.
You've been listening to This is the G Podcast. This is the G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.